buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, yeah, baby. Live around the world on the interwebs at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello, my friends, and welcome to Wednesday, hump day, middle of the week, downhill slide, to what would normally be Firearms Friday, but a quick reminder that we will be on hiatus on this Friday. We will not be on the air. We'll have alternate programming in both North and South, and you'll be taking care of that stuff there as well. So that's what's happening on Friday. We'll be back first bright and early, first thing Monday morning. But until then, we are going to be gone on Friday. So tomorrow will be the final broadcast day of the week. Tomorrow on the program, we have we got a full show with Ben Carpenter. Sorry, my brain is just not quite there yet. Ben Carpenter joining us in hour 2, and Dave Bronson and Josh Church in a dual interview in hour 1. Today, we're joined by Mike Prax, who is a candidate for the Interior District 33. He's waiting in the wings right now for the first hour. And in hour 2, we're going to talk with Shelley Hughes, candidate for governor. It's all full. We're all full up for the whole rest of the week. It's going to be crazy. All right. So anyway, without further ado, because we do have a full boat and a packed house, let's get things rolling, get into it. And we'll get started this morning with Mike Prax, again, who is the incumbent in District 33 up in the Interior. Let's see what he has to say this morning. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Michael. I am well, but it's pretty early.
It is. Well, it's welcome to my world. Welcome to the party, pal. That's what happens. Definitely a little bit of a different flavor for some people to be up so early, but we got to get things rocking and rolling. We got to catch people at the beginning of the day. So, Mike, you wanted to, folks who may or may not know about you, who may know you as their representative or may have heard your name, but maybe they're not really paying attention to the background. Why don't you give us a little bit of your background? You are the current sitting representative in District 33, but maybe folks need a refresher. So why don't you hit us with a little bit of it?
Sure. Well, I'm Mike Prax, running for re-election to District 33. That's the North Pole, Badger Road, Moose Creek area. And my family, mom and dad, in 1969, and went through Lathrop High School, graduated in 74, and been interested in politics since then, really. My folks ran a bakery and restaurant in Fairbanks. For those who were around, it was the Star of the North Bakery, and that was kind of the local hangout for politicians and lawyers and whatnot. So got exposed to that in high school, and kind of been involved one degree or another since then. Was on the Borough Assembly in 1999, served a term on the Borough Assembly, and then just been helping candidates, and was appointed to the legislature when Representative Wilson resigned back in 2009.
Uh-oh.
and have
I think we've got a little bit of a internet issue here this morning. All
our,
right, Mike. Yeah, Mike, hold the line.
2019. A lot of work to do, so I'm running again.
Yeah. Mike, we got a little bit of a lag issue there with your internet, so we apologize. You were just saying you were nominated or appointed to the legislature in 2009, and then you've been there ever since, essentially.
2019. And this is my
19.
seventh
19.
year.
Okay, yeah, you broke up there right in the middle, so I just want to make sure that we're good. That folks know where you're at. Mike, let's talk a little bit about what's facing the state. We've got we're in severe crisis. Although some legislators would treat it as if it's not. Hey, we've got more money. We need to know that we know what to do with from time to time. To, hey, the sky is falling. We've seen both of those reactions from legislatures in the last 3 or 4 years. What's your thoughts on the state of the state? Where do we sit? What do you think? Where do you think we're at? Well, Mike, I think what we're going to do here is I'm going to shuffle you over here.
Yeah.
I'm going to shuffle you over here to the phone side of the world because your internet is North Pole ready. That's what's going on. All right.
There we go.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to mute you. I'm going to mute you here, and then we're going to just keep it up. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you just fine. I got to turn down my volume a bit.
Okay. All right.
There we go.
So let's start with again. Where do you think the state is at right now, and where do you think we go from here?
Well, we are at a very interesting intersection. We're seeing some real energy problems, but on the other hand, if we are facing some real great opportunities. We can have just a great 2 decades or more if we kind of get our ducks in a row. The governor has been working on several different initiatives over the years to make it easier for companies to get going, reduce permitting time, make more access to resources. And of course, the big one is we've finally got an better opportunity than we ever have had to get a gas line. And that's the biggest issue that we've been working on, certainly for the last year. And this was, when I was on the assembly, the gas line came up. We formed the Pipeline Port Authority, Alaska Gas Line Port Authority. I was in that debate, and that was looking good as far as it was Bechtel was interested in it at the time. And it looked like it would maybe work out. They were thinking about building a pipeline down to Valdez at the time. And it didn't, there's a few things you need to line up. But we hadn't talked to the Alaska Oil and Gas Conservation Commission. And there I learned more about that than everybody did. And they said we couldn't take the gas volume that we needed to take off the North Slope at that time because we would lose oil production. And they've been using the gas for recycling. And if you take that much more gas, and back in, call it 2000, you would lose oil production. So they wouldn't let us do that. That's why that one got put on hold.
Right.
But they said at the time that in about 25 years, the Prudhoe Bay oil field the oil reservoir underneath Prudhoe Bay field, there we go, would turn into a gas field. And that's where we're at right now as far as producing the gas. If we don't start producing gas off the North Slope, selling gas, then it becomes more and more difficult to get the oil out, and we are going to lose oil production sooner than later. So everything's kind of coming together, and we've got to outfit. Glenfarne came forward. They answered the proposal, and they've got a privately financed project. It's a really good proposal, and now we just need to get the legislature to agree to reforming the pipeline, oil and gas pipeline property tax statutes, so that this gas line can be more commercially viable.
Well, I mean,
but if we can get that done, we've got a great couple of decades in front of us.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I could see that for sure, but I mean, there are other issues right now, of course, outside of the gas line. I mean, that's an immediate threat with the with the loss of gas in the Cook Inlet and everything else, and this is the immediate problem. But there are larger issues as well, right? With the state of Alaska. I mean, financially, we've got some fiscal issues and everything else. What else do you see here as being a problem in the state?
Well, you're right. The fiscal issues have to be resolved, and there are some big challenges. Currently, we have, if you will, a structural cash flow problem. We've got lots of money in reserves, but year-to-year cash flow, we are coming up short. It's transitioning from the mainly oil-related income, and now we're relying on the earnings of the permanent fund to fund government. And over the last 10, 15 years, the legislature has spent down the constitutional budget reserve and really has not been able to come to grips with the way government is run. And that does need to be fixed. And I think it can be. I know it can be. The key thing is get the legislature to start following the law. And the specific one, as far as spending is concerned, is the Executive Budget Act. That's in state statute, and it's basically a performance-based management. Set measurable goals and objectives, and then keep track of what they're doing. What they're doing and why they're doing it is what we need to focus on. Not just the current thought is what they call baseline budgeting, and that is the administration develops the budget from what was passed the previous year, and then bills that the legislature passes during a session, just add those up, ask for more money, and fight over the permanent fund dividend.
Right.
And we got to start resolving some of that.
Right. Well, I mean, you say that there was a cash flow. I mean, do we really have a cash flow problem, or do we have a spending problem? I mean, really, that's the thing. I mean, you and I have talked about this years ago, that what we really have in this state is not necessarily a revenue problem. We have a spending problem.
We absolutely have a spending problem. Yes, we have come to rely on the oil income from the level of the mid 80s, early 90s, and we've gotten used to spending that much money, and now that revenue is going down. So we're digging into reserves.
Well, it's not just that money's going down. That money is being replaced by the earnings of the permanent fund, which again is another thing that's completely disconnected from the economy. I mean, at least the oil revenues were connected to the private economy in the form of the resource development. The revenues from the permanent fund are completely disconnected from the private economy in the state, overall. And now we're receiving the majority of our fundage from that. And it just completely leaves us out of the loop as private citizens and as members of the private economy. It doesn't seem to matter what happens to us as long as the money from the fund still flows.
You hit the nail on the head. The legislature, as long as the funds are there, they'll spend it. And we have not developed the private economy which was the idea back when Prudhoe Bay was discovered, and the whole reason for setting up the permanent fund was to control spending, but then transition from just total dependence on oil and start developing a private economy. And we have not done a good job of that because the legislature is not dependent on the private economy. And that's a real disconnect.
Yeah, well, it is, because again, they don't seem to care what happens for the rest of us. And quite honestly, there's many people out in the private economy who, as long as there's out of sight, out of mind, government can grow to whatever level that it wants. We've got people who are supposedly, more smaller government kind of people who are like, oh, this is fine. They can just grow at whatever rate they want for whatever they draw out of the permanent fund. As long as they don't tax me, I'm fine. Well, they are taxing you. Yep. You just don't see it. That's the problem.
Effectively, you are correct. Yes, they are taking the income from the permanent fund belongs to the people. We own that collectively. I get that. We don't have a private equity interest in that. And then back when was it? 2016, I think, when former Governor Walker vetoed the appropriation for the permanent fund and actually drew a line through the statute. And when the Supreme Court didn't go along with that, the legislature just doesn't fund according to the statute, and they should. We might need to change the statute, but we should keep the funding. You can balance with a 50. Well, let me back up. The legislature implemented the percent of market value instead of basing it on the annual income, and base it on the value of the fund. And that's not a bad idea from running a fund, but they need to change the statute. And then we can keep, if they split that 50-50 with the 50% of the earnings of the fund going to the state and 50% going to the dividend, then that comes out about the same as the current formula. But we're just ignoring the statute that's in the formula for providing the funding, which is in statute, and just closing in along the way. And then there is not enough incentive to cut.
Mike Prax is our guest. We're going to continue here in just a moment. We are coming up on the break. In fact, we're over the break. We're going to be back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with more. An incumbent for House District 33, Mike Prax, right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we are in the break right now. Mike Prax is our guest. I'm just looking at some of the comments here. We might need to change it. No, we need to change the statute for sure. If they're going to ignore it, then please, we just need to, we just need to change it. If they're going to ignore it, we at least should bring it into compliance with something that we can all agree on. Instead, it's just like it's the ignored stepchild in the back of the room where nobody wants to acknowledge it, right? It's the bastard stepchild that nobody wants to acknowledge, but they know it's there. You might as well just get it over with.
Yeah, indeed. A huge thing. What the legislature passes laws for the rest of us to follow, but they don't pass or they don't follow the law. The statute's there. By statute, we are still entitled to the amount of dividend that's calculated by the statute. The legislature just ignores it. and that, they're relying on the Wielkowski decision that it takes an appropriation. Well, that's fine, but the Wielkowski didn't address the statutory fact that we are entitled to that dividend according to the formula that again is in statute, and we ignore the 90-day session limit, which was passed by an initiative. They just blow by it, and we just argue and argue and argue, and that's causing a lot of problems. And if we would, for instance, simple things, if we would just follow the 90-day statutory limit to at least get the budget out, then that would make it a lot simpler for local governments and school districts, whatever the amount is, whether it's too much or too little, they would at least know what's going on, and that would make their life a lot easier. And our life at local governments, that puts them in a pinch when we don't pass the budget until the end of May. They're worrying about their budgets. School districts don't know what they're getting, and that increases expenses just by itself.
Well, and that's the whole problem here, is that nobody wants to be on the record for changing the statute and be part of it. Although, like you said, it's we have to follow the laws. The legislature should have to follow. They shouldn't be able to just ignore them, and just and it's not just the 90-day session. It's the 30% of the budget should be capital. That's a constitutional mandate. We can go down the list here of all the things that they've just ignored. I'm waiting for somebody to file a lawsuit against the legislature to say, great, you guys aren't following statute, but what about constitutional mandates? What about all these other things? What about, the legislature just seems to be a group of folks who just can't seem to, they do what they want, essentially. They do what they want, and we have to deal with whatever it is, and if they want to ignore a law, they can, and that invites Irish democracy is what happens.
That is correct. That's a huge, dangerous problem for society when the government doesn't think it even needs to follow its own laws. It just erodes trust in government, and everything goes further and further sideways. And you can see it. It just, in the time that I've been down there, the partisanship, the House isn't talking to the Senate, the majority isn't talking to the minority, the governor's not talking to us, we're not talking to the government, and we just argue and argue and argue and cannot find a way to set a goal and work toward it and work together. It gets worse every year. Got to do something about that. Yep.
So we're
trying.
Yeah. So what do we do about that? I mean, we're 40 seconds away from rejoining the radio, so maybe we'll hold this question until we come back. But it is a valid question as to what do we do to fix that. So hold the line for just a sec. Mike Prax is our guest. We're going to continue here in just a second. Please like and share, like and follow, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the YouTube-y stuff and all that kind of jazz as we continue on here. We're gonna jump back into this here in just a second, and we'll continue on the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Okay, let's do this thing. Here we go.
Never too proud to make fun of politicians or ourselves, but mostly politicians because, come on, they're such an easy target. The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we're continuing now. Mike Prax is our guest, currently the representative for House District 33 running for re-election this season. And we were just talking about all the laws that are just ignored. The laws in the legislature that are ignored, whether it's the 90-day session rule, whether it's the statutory PFD, whether it's the constitutional mandate that 1/3 of the budget, 30% of the budget has to be capital, or many other things that the legislature just blithely ignores. And then Mike mentioned, of course, the majority not talking to the minority, the Senate not talking to the House, the governor not talking to anybody. Mike, what's the I mean, it sounds like it's Survivor meets junior high school down there. What's the answer? What's the answer? You've been down there. How do you fix it?
Yes. Well, now there's a challenge. I think it goes really to scriptural principles. We aren't an authority unto ourselves. We just are not, and there are higher authorities that we should follow. We need, what are the first and second commandments? I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt have no other gods before me. We have elevated government to the level of a god, and that's a false god. Doesn't work for society to get along. The second commandment, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, and treat each other with that respect instead of just everybody down there on their own, trying to get as much as they can from the government. That's the real bottom line, or if you will, the top line. But then follow, as you point out, the Constitution on budgeting. The House works generally on the operating budget, and then the Senate works while we're doing that. Senate works on the capital budget, and then we send the two to each other. And we should be talking to each other as that goes along, but we're not. And then it's just brinksmanship every year. And basically, we put a lot of work into it, and the Senate ends up setting both budgets, the operating and the capital, and the House is at a severe disadvantage at that. I don't know, in practical terms, day to day, if that wasn't done that way, if the Senate wasn't just taking control, I don't know that we could, in the House, that we could ever agree to a budget. That's a problem as well. So, but it's that we all think we're omnipotent and that we individually should be in charge, and we should be listening to each other and setting goals first, agreeing on priorities, and setting measurable goals for us to follow, and then see how that works out.
So, what I'm hearing is that there currently is no solution to really fix this right here. It is, like you said, brinksmanship. It's a handful of people in the legislature are basically controlling everything, the leadership, and so there is no solution to this. There's no new governor or new sheriff in town who could come in, or new senator or representative that could come in and try and shake the tree on this. What do you say?
I don't. Yeah, well, sort of that. There is no person that we, the people, have got to go back to those same principles, that we don't have a right to take somebody else's money to buy what we want. And until that changes, we're going to get more of the same, regardless. Governor Dunleavy came in 8 years ago now, and he tried to make a big change. But when he rolled it out, he got a lot of opposition from those who are getting the benefits, getting the money. And he went on a road show. I don't know if you recall that. And we talk about this as individuals, and I think I have to put the blame there. Ultimately, in the Declaration of Independence, it says just governments are formed with the consent of the people. Well, the other side of that is that unjust governments derive their power from the consent. And by consent, that simply means you didn't do enough to ask and enforce some other change. We have consented. We have to blame ourselves, if you will. We've consented to this, and we complain to each other, but we don't back it up when something is on there that could be done. The governor made a great effort. But when he went on his roadshow, there was a desire for people to have that. He was elected by a majority, first governor elected by a majority since I think it was Hammond. But the people didn't come out and support him during the time, and so not all of, but most of the pressure we're getting is from people that are coming down there asking for more money, and we have to stand up to that. And we have to stand up to that individually. And then as representatives, we have to. One thing, as an example, there's a big movement to restore the defined benefits, and all of the unions and et cetera that came down there asking for defined benefits. And I told every one of them that I don't care for defined benefits. Me personally, I recognize the value to other people, and there are some benefits, but we also have to talk about what are we going to get from that. Is that you've done the actuarials on the defined benefits? In my mind, they don't work, but whatever. But you claim that you're going to get reduced turnover, and it's just a claim. It's an unproven claim. But I challenged him to that, and I got it in really good conversations. That started really good conversations with people that are just coming down demanding something, and getting people to think about that. And that's the kind of things that we have to do. We have to take the time to get in those discussions, and eventually that will change the minds of people. And we will take, hopefully, more responsibility.
So, I mean, what is your suggestion then, as far as, because you're saying that we're basically giving them permission because we're not paying attention, I guess, we're the will of the governed,
Yeah.
or we're not. And there's a lot of us that aren't paying attention. That's for sure. I mean, government's what happens to you when you don't pay attention. But there are those of us that are out there shouting from the rooftop. So what do you suggest we do to reject this position that we're currently in?
Well, we're talking a lot to each other over Facebook and radio programs and et cetera, but that same message does not get to the legislature. And we want somebody else to change something to make it easier for us, but we've got ways to do that. Individually, we can send emails to our representatives. And when we do send an email, a simple thing that people could change, put your name and address and a phone number to contact, so that when I get an email, I know it is from District 33, for instance, and then I make a concerted effort to reply when I can to those, or better yet, give somebody a call. But typically, I don't get a way to contact them, and often it is just somebody pressing a button talking for a group, and I can't reply to all of those. But I do, if somebody gives me a call or identifies themselves so I can get back with them, then we can start establishing those conversations and move forward together a little better. All right. So that would be one thing I would encourage people to do.
All right, we'll come up to the other things here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show continues with Mike Prax, candidate incumbent for House District 33 and running for re-election. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes,
allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're back in the break right now. Mike Prax is our guest. I mean, Mike, I'm assuming that you are a hard no on the defined benefits, right? I mean, because we still owe $7-8 billion in unfunded liability, something like that, down from the 13, but we still owe over $6.5-7 billion worth of unfunded liability for the first 4 tiers of the defined benefits program.
Right. I am a no, but to be honest, I am not a hard no. If
What
I
does
think
that?
there is some merit.
What does that mean? You're a no, but you're not a hard no. I mean, what if we're already $7 billion in the hole? What would possibly make you say yes to something like that?
There is a possibility that would reduce turnover as an example. I don't know that would happen. There just has been no analysis that establishes that would happen, or that it doesn't happen. If something reduced turnover, and that in turn reduced the training expense and etc., then I would consider it. But what they have presented so far just doesn't work out actuarially. It puts us in a bigger problem. So I'm against the current proposal, but I am interested in a conversation and getting the state employee unions basically to get on board with what's the benefit of that?
Well,
what is the deal we're going to get out of that?
Let's just say hypothetically that it does reduce turnover. I mean,
Right.
I don't think that there's any proof of that. They could just as well say this causes the sun to rise in the morning, and they have just about as much proof as that this is somehow going to reduce turnover. But even if it does, if it still puts us upside down in a worse situation, does it really matter if it keeps the retention high, if it puts us in a catastrophic financial position down the road?
Well, that's where we need to go back to this Executive Budget Act. That by itself, you're right. If we reduce turnover and we're still not accomplishing much with what we spend, then no, it doesn't do any good. But by itself, it's a question of we do have lots of other problems caused by labor shortage that is costing the state and everybody else a lot of money. If we were looking at that as a business and it did save us money, then the money we save would offset
what labor shortage. What labor shortage are you talking about, Mike? I mean, where do we have a labor shortage that's causing and costing the state money? I mean, you talking about like the SNAP program thing, or is that? I mean,
yep.
I mean, but that's more that has to do more with the bottleneck more than it does with the number of employees, though, right? I mean, that's a bottleneck of information of trying to get everything entered. Or are you saying that we need to that those departments are too short to be able to have enough people to enter all the information?
Just looking at that by itself, yes, they have an archaic paper handling system for those applications, and they do not have enough people to do the work that's required the way they're doing the work now.
So, I mean,
part of that is training.
Wouldn't it be better to advocate for an upgrade of the? I mean, rather than increase the number of people who are trying to work in an archaic system that's not keeping up, and increasing the number of employees in that regard, and putting people. Wouldn't it make sense, since we're already at a pain point, to go ahead and revitalize the system and make it a modernized system so it takes less people and is more efficient from that perspective?
Absolutely, yes. But we have to look at one thing at a time. We have to look at the defined benefits by itself. What does that do? But then we have to keep going and look at the archaic systems and what the excuse that we're getting back from the Department of Health that processes that in the SNAP benefits, for instance. They're trying to get a computer system upgrade, but they haven't been able to accomplish that for 5 years. And then you talk to IT, well, why can't you do that? Well, we don't have enough people. And it's all excuses instead of saying, well, okay, there is a date. What do you think it's going to take to do that? And then we're gonna have to fund. If we want the service, we're going to have to fund it to get somebody to do it somehow. So
all right,
it doesn't solve the problem by itself. No, nothing. No one thing solves the problem.
Okay, Mike Prax is our guest. We're going to continue here in just a second. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Let's move ahead. Here we go.
The Michael Dukes Show, proudly splitting the left versus right dichotomy. Yeah, I had to look that word up too. I don't think it means what he thinks it means. Here he is, though. That guy, Michael Dukes, the one with the show.
Okay, we're continuing now. Mike Prax is our guest, currently the representative for House District 33, running for re-election. And so, Mike, we're having you on here as a bit of a rebuttal to one of your opponents here earlier in the week. And so, I guess my question is, as we come on here, what sets you apart from your opponents? What sets Mike Prax apart from anybody else who might want to run for this seat? Why should folks be pulling the lever for you versus any other person on the ticket there?
Well, I think there's experience. I've been working at trying to get changes, not just responding to the current issue, but looking at it a little deeper. We talked earlier about spending. We need to reform our licensure codes to make it easier for people to get licensed. I've been focusing on medical licensure primarily, and it is extremely difficult to get other people to focus on the details that would result in some change. But I've been hanging in there, working at it, getting a few things done. We did get some bills through, got a lot of resistance this past year on licensing for architects, from interior designers. And that's needed to do. You wonder why you need to license an interior designer, but they need to do that to get the contracts out faster and easier. I've been working on a bill to call it Free the Naturopaths. Let the naturopaths work to the full extent of their training and capability. That gets shot down because of the immediate pressure from the physicians. But you got to keep hacking at that. The Nurse Licensure Compact, that would be a way to reduce the need for people to process licenses. But more importantly, it would enable nurses to transfer their license to the state. Well, there isn't a need to transfer the license. So we get rid of some state work,
right,
and help people get on the job faster and get more things done. And I'm trying to look at those at that level. And if you look at the bills that I have sponsored or co-sponsored, I think about, is that the goal, to reduce the need really for government funding, and does it reduce spending in the long run? And that's what I'm focusing on, trying to accomplish this goal. The hard work that's needed to do that, to get the government spending under control so that we can get a dividend. Tried to get a dividend button bill, I called it, to allow people. There's a lot of people who say they want the state services over their dividend. if you measure that by the by the people that come down to talk to the legislature, 80% would rather have the services than the dividend. I said, well, okay, send a check to the government and you can have your services, and those who need the dividend can have their dividend. Seems like a simple concept. Have not been able to get that through the legislature, but I did work with the Department of Revenue, and now the Department of Revenue has a button on their webpage. If you want to make a contribution to the general fund or the other funds that they have listed, you can do that.
Well, Randy will be.
So we're making that progress.
Randy will be thrilled to hear that.
Randy, yes,
Randy will be thrilled to hear
Griffith.
that he can put all of his dividend in there. But Mike, that doesn't answer my question as to far as what sets you apart from anybody else that's out there. You've listed some of the things you've worked on, which are great. I mean, I would hope that occupational licensing would be reduced in the state. You know, more government restrictions or regulations on people doing business is something that I think is part of the problem, not the solution. I'm not a fan of having occupational licensing for a variety of different things. But what sets you apart from any of your, what would be the reason you caught me in an elevator and say, vote for me because X, Y, and Z versus my opponent, or, something like that. So what sets you apart in that regard?
Well, I think, I'll brag. I think I spend more time digging into the details. Given a problem, dig into the details to find what the statute currently says, what needs to be changed, and is it going in the right direction? And focus on that. And then I do work talking to other legislators, trying to get something done, not just complaining that we can't do something because we're in the minority. No, you do what you can do and make progress wherever you're at. Take the situation wherever you're at and make the best of it, and make a concerted effort to work with the administration, with each other, and try to come up with a solution, not just complain because we can't do something because the other side isn't cooperating with us. Got to reach out and talk to people, explain things, and get some of that done.
What do you see yourself focusing on if you go back to Juneau, you're reelected? What is your focus? What is going to be your laser focus as you move forward here into the coming year?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to continue on those bills I haven't gotten through. We're going to try it again on the practice of naturopathy, for instance. I've got a bill in for contractor bonds to raise the limit on those bonds. I would like to change the statute, as you mentioned, the licensing thing. But anyway, I want to keep that going. There's a home care employment standards board that I want to follow up on. We did get a bill passed. The governor vetoed that. Frankly, I don't hold that against him. But we got it passed. It got vetoed. It didn't get overridden. That's fine. But we got the two sides talking together, the people providing the services and the agencies that have to hire them, and going through to the next level of care. And hopefully they're going to continue to meet over the interim and come up with something that they can agree on, and we can start moving in the right direction there. That's going to reduce healthcare a bunch. The local school contribution bill, I want to keep working on that. That's a tough one. That's that required local contribution is driving the local expense up for organized boroughs relative to others. It's a unfair treatment. I want to keep going on that bill specifically. And then there are some others that we have to keep going on. Insurance reform, we got a couple of changes to help reduce the bureaucracy that's required for processing health insurance claims. We got a start on that. I didn't get near as far as I wanted to. But again, we got people talking to each other, and we did make some reform on that, and we just need to keep going on that. And then the big one is the Executive Budget Act. I've been making some noise, been making some progress, got a few other legislators interested in that, and we're asking better questions when we're reviewing the budget. I want to keep going on that. And I think if we keep hacking away at those things, we are going to come to solutions. And then I hope we're not going to have to deal with the oil or the gas pipeline tax next year. That needs to be solved this year. That's coming up. Well, the word on the street is we're going to be going down there on the 20th, and hopefully we can get some sort of a bill out that lets the pipeline project proceed. If we can do that, we have done great work.
All right.
So there's all kinds of work that needs to be done.
All right, we got about just under 2 minutes here, Mike. So your final elevator pitch and where folks find out more about you and how they can get a hold of you. But your final elevator pitch to anybody that as to why they should vote for Mike Prax for State House. Yeah.
Well, you can find out more about me. Go to my name on the state legislature's page. You can Google Alaska State Legislature, and you can find out what I actually have been doing over the last 7 years. And you can put as much research into that as you want. And the big thing that's on my Facebook page somewhere is if you don't like what I'm doing, give me a call and we'll work it out. If you do like what I'm doing, tell your friends and get the word out. We need to start working together, and I'm willing to spend the time in. I have been spending the time doing that, but we need the help. We need to talk to each other and work together to reach the goals that we all want. Got to set the goals, define the goals, and then work on reaching them.
All right. Well, Mike Prax, again, incumbent for House District 33, running for re-election. Mike, thanks for coming on board this morning and being part of it. We appreciate you coming on board.
Yep. Oh, and I should say, if you want information, my cell phone number is 907-378-5667.
Okay.
And
then that's
send me a text and we'll get going.
Okay. Thanks so much.
All right.
Mike Prax, appreciate it. Folks, out of time. Hour 2 dead ahead. Okay, Mike. Any final thoughts before we let you go here? Oops. And let's see if we can bring him back. Any final thoughts, Mike, here before we bring you home here? We're out of time. Let's see if we can get there we go. Anything else, Mike, before we let you go? I don't think he can hear me. I think he muted me earlier, and he could get it going on there. All right, so we'll just do that. Okay. I just don't even know what to say. I mean, somebody who used to be what I would consider to be one of the sharpest Republican/libertarian voices, and things have changed. I don't know. Don't know what to say. I mean, I just think that you can definitely see a difference between Monday's interview and today's interview. Let me just kindly put it that way. Okay. All right. We're getting ready here. It's the water in Juneau. It's got to be. It's got to be the water in Juneau. That's got to be what's happening. I mean, I'm a little concerned. I don't think I want to drink anything if I ever go to Juneau again. I don't think I ever want to do anything. I think I'll bring my own bottled water. Just, one too many hits with a snake. That's what's going on. One too many. All right. So Shelley Hughes is going to be joining us here in just a hot second. I don't think that was true, Frank. I don't think that's definitely not what I meant. Monday's interview had a person that can spend my money better than I can. That was not I don't know. Okay. What was that? Craig, it says, something about Craig. Let's see. Yeah. Rick is right. God help us. I don't know what Rick was right about exactly, but I'm sure it's probably true. And Brian's over here. He's over here trying to name the Juneau Clown Posse. Bert is Volcano Von Giggles. What is your name? My name is Volcano Von Giggles. Bamboozle Bill. Okay. All right. Okay. I mean, I like BS Billy to begin with. So, I mean, it's all good here. If we're going with the Juneau Clown Posse theme, we need to assign clown names to the respective members of the troupe. Giesel the Weasel. I mean, Weasley. I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that. I need clown names. I would just call, the Wally the Walrus Stedman. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying right there. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Jeez, tell me how you really feel. I just got I just got a text message from somebody who shall remain nameless. And was not impressed. Let's just put it this way. He was not impressed with Mike's interview. Okay. There we go. All right. Smoke berries this morning, but got to do it. I tried to smoke berries one day, but they were so hard to get lit. I don't know how to. I'm just kidding. It's like that guy that said, "Hey, I just tried to smoke a salmon. Damn thing was so hard to get lit." I did inhale, though. It's all fine. Okay, we're waiting for Shelley Hughes to join us in the. Just making sure everything is. Everything's good. Waiting for Shelley Hughes to join us here in the green room. So we'll be waiting for that here in just a second. The pipeline bill is trash. Just say it, Mike. What am I going to say? I was not impressed with Mike Prax's interview. Nice guy. Was not impressed with that interview. I mean, it just, again, Mike used to come on the show and debate me a lot back in the day when I was in Fairbanks, and he was one of the sharpest Republican/libertarian kind, minds out there. But that was not impressive. That was not impressive. Nice guy. Not impressed. Again, you make the decision for yourself. You just compare Monday's interview with his opponent, Barbara Haney, and himself today. You just watch both of those back to back, and you tell me which one is the one that needs to, that's where it needs to go. All right. I see Shelley Hughes is in the green room waiting patiently for us. We're going to be back to her in just a second. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Good morning and welcome to the program, live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to the audio-only live stream and, of course, also the social media sites and everything else. It is the Michael Duke Show, broadcasting there as well across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station, and or FM translator. All right. We have got hour one in the can. We just finished up with Mike Prax, who's running for re-election in State House. Now we're moving on to our number two, which is now Shelley Hughes, who is a candidate for governor. She's waiting in the wings here for just a quick second. Tomorrow on the program, Dave Bronson, Josh Church. It's a twofer. They're both going to be with us in hour one. And then Ben Carpenter from Oversight Live will be joining us in hour two. And then just a quick reminder is that we will be on hiatus on Friday. You'll have alternate programming wherever you are, and you can listen because I'm going to be traveling on Friday and I will be unavailable. So there you go. That's what's happening. All right, let's get down to it, nitty gritty. Shelley Hughes. Candidate for governor. She joins us this morning to talk about her candidacy, her campaign, wood ticks, lunatics, and politics. That's what we get a chance to talk about here this morning. And she joins us right now. Good morning, Shelley. How are you?
Hey, good morning. Good to be on. Thank you for the opportunity, Michael. You lay it all out, and I love the fact that you're broadcasting in so many communities. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it makes it kind of nice. I mean, we're able to reach folks pretty much, almost anywhere that on the major systems out there. So it's a pretty happy coinkydink here. All right, well, Shelley, let's we're just been talking about this, okay? No holds barred, no punches pulled. I mean, we got 12 Republican candidates for governor, and you get one shot in the primary, because it's a one and done primary. It's not the ranked choice on the primary. The ranked choice is for the general. This is, again, why this whole thing is so confusing, because people are like, I could pick four now? No, you could pick one. Yeah. And so people are so confused. But people are like, I mean, I know this person, or I know that person, or I like this person, or I like most of you. I mean, there's not many of the Republicans that I don't like as people. But I mean, how do we choose, Shelley? What is the setting here that we need to do? How do we choose our candidate out of the 12 ones? What's your recommendation here? How do people choose?
Great question. I want to lay a foundation because I want everyone to think about it. And you've got a lot of politicos, so they probably know this technicality. After the census, there's a redistricting board that redraws the lines. So this next governor will get to weight that redistricting board. And I just want everyone to think about, if we have a Democrat governor, what would happen? We would swing, we'd take a sharp turn to the left. But here's the kicker, Michael. We'd turn blue until 2042, because those lines would go into effect in 2032 and they would hold until 2042. So think about that. income tax, a suppression of resource development, increased wokeness in our schools. And I just want to mention, when we're talking about Democrat, we have Tom Begich and JKT. JKT is at best a Democrat socialist, if not just a socialist. I'm not sure if people realize, but he was back on the East Coast there for a while before he came back, and he brought back with him East Coasties, Mandami people helping him. So we can't afford to have Democrat, right? It would be a disaster. It'd be really, really horrible for our state. So I lay that foundation because this election, this primary, Michael, is unusually consequential for the long term, on a long term basis for the state because of redistricting. And so, who we bring out, is in the top four on the conservative side, must be able to actually beat the Democrat. So that's really, really important as people go to vote. And I'm just going to put it out there. And I can talk about my flaws. I am not perfect. We can talk about what happened with SB 91. We can talk about the fact that some of the folks are trying to drum up that I lived in a faith-based community when I first came to Alaska, because those are the only two things they have on me. And both of them fall flat. But I don't have baggage. My retired General Blake Geddes does not have baggage. We do not have skeletons. And we do not have high negatives. We actually have what's called high sentiment. And that's what you need to beat the Democrat. You also have to be a solid candidate with a decent action plan, which we have, and a pragmatic vision for moving ahead. You've got to be someone who can let people know you understand the issues and have a feasible action plan to fix those decades-old problems for decades, 40, 50 years, some of these things. But you also have a pragmatic vision to carry us into the future decades, which we have laid out and we can talk about. That's all important. But one of the things that was astonishing to me is only about 15 to 20% of the people are really into the policy and what you're going to do. A lot of people are it's just that vibe, and that has to do with the negativity. Have you lost to Democrats in the past? Did you mess up when you were serving before? Those are kind of things. So it's not all about who's the loudest. It's not all about coming in with the most amount of name recognition. For us, Michael, it's about a conservative who can actually win in November, and our team can win. And let me just tell you, I've won 6 elections. I've beaten Democrats before, and I can beat a Democrat again. And I want to tell you, one of my recent races of the last 2, I was up against a libertarian who unfortunately ended up in jail. I don't know if you remember that. There was a shooting. A libertarian and a Democrat. And guess how much I won by, Michael?
How much?
78%. So a three-way race, and I will 170, 78%. Now, you might say, well, Mat-Su is conservative. Yeah, we're red, but guess where the blue pocket is? It's in Palmer, and that was in my district. Right now, the Democrats are controlling the city council in Palmer. Right. So if I can win by 78%, when I have a Democrat and a third candidate, I can beat a Democrat in a statewide race. They do not have the dirt and the skeletons they can pull out about me. So that is the case. And I do want to bring up SB 91 because some are trying. I own that from the beginning.
All right.
So when Walker was in, he withheld information. He did not let all the prosecutors speak to us. He withheld law enforcement officers from speaking to us. He had his token people, and they were not truthful to us. They were telling us this what Texas did. And Texas said, "Oh, it's tough on crime, right?" They were not truthful. But I tell you, I was the first, and I may have been the only, when I saw crime shoot up, when I saw home burglaries increase, shoplifting increase, I went on, did a selfie Facebook Live thing when those were first available. And, Facebook started deleting those, so we don't have it. But I was actually undergoing breast cancer treatment. I'm 100% free, healed and fine with that. But I probably looked awful, and I held up the camera, and I said, I made a mistake. How many times do elected officials say they make a mistake, right? I made a mistake, and I'm going to do everything to make it right. And the good Lord allowed me to be this Senate Judiciary Chair to lead that repeal. And I want to tell you, the Dunleavy administration was hoping for maybe a 60 or 70% repeal. And they were, when it was all said and done, they were amazed that I was able to bring forward a full repeal. So that's my SB 91 story. And, when information is withheld, it's really, really difficult for a legislature to be able to make a good decision, right? The second thing that I heard some Democrats were saying that I lived at some crazy cult. I'm not part of a cult. There were a bunch of Alaskan families, fun, great families. I'm still friends with them. And we had a little community near the town of Hoonah. People were free to come from town. People do come from town. You'd go back and forth. People were free to come and go. There was nothing about it that was cult. There were no weird stuff. It was just a wholesome place to raise a family. I taught in a private Christian school there. And in fact, some of the students I had in those early grades, one became the CEO of Bartlett Memorial Hospital. One of them became the superintendent of the Haines School District. So it was a lot of good families, good times, and it was a great introduction to Alaska, living in a cabin, oil lamps, cooking and heating by wood stove, outhouse, hand wringer washing machine,
Right.
Living off the land, hunting, fishing, clamming, picking berries, growing food. It was a great time of my life, and I have nothing to hide. I've always been very upfront about that. So it was a fine place to start out in the state.
That was a very long answer to my original question and it was a good background, good basics, just wind her up and let her go. Answering and again, getting out there ahead of, I guess, some of the criticisms. I hadn't heard about the whole cult thing. And I know that you were one of the driving forces behind the repeal of 91. So again, I don't know how that is going to affect people. You may have voted for it, but at that point, there were several people who had said, hey, this was not right. We thought it was one thing and something else. Let's change it. And some stood up and got hammered over it later on, like John Coghill, who refused to admit that he was wrong. So, all right, but let's. I'm coming up on the break here in just about 2 minutes. So again, my original question was, you're telling people when I say there's 12 candidates, you're saying, and I'm summating all of what you just said, make a decision based on who you think can defeat a Democrat. That's because that's going to be the final thing in the long run, right?
Well, and I also said someone who actually has a practical action plan to fix decades-old problems, and also pragmatic vision for the future. So that's important, and we've got that on both fronts. And there are candidates who are talking in slogans. We don't really know where they stand. You can go to our website. It's the most comprehensive of every candidate out there. So, it's hard to know where people are going, especially when all the Republicans basically agree on the platform, right? So being more specific, I believe, is important. It distinguishes the candidates. And I'll just say, because you've got listeners across the state, I'm the only candidate that's lived all over the state. That sets me apart as well. I think it is a great thing to bring to the table because every region is unique and it has its own challenges, but every region also has something great they can contribute to the state. And I don't think we've fully unshackled that for the different regions. And so that's part about our pragmatic vision. I know you're probably up against a break.
Yeah.
But we can talk about that.
Okay. Shelley Hughes, former senator, now candidate for governor on the GOP platform. We're going to continue with her here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Don't forget, you can always check us out on Facebook and join the chat room if you'd like. Facebook.com/Michael Duke Show/live if you want to be part of that out there. We'll be back right after this. Don't go anywhere.
Tune in Friday for our weekend entertainment and movie streaming review with our guest critic, Willie Waffle. That's actually his real name. Really? That's his real name? Man, his parents must have hated him. The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we are in the break here with Shelley Hughes, and I'm just trying to get caught up here on some of the commentary, and I'm just scrolling backwards here to see if there's anything else that we can't bring up here on the program. Harold, sorry. Harold says, JKT supports the schools. That's not socialism. Hey, Stalin supported the schools too, okay? So I don't know what you want me to say there, Harold. Stalin really supported the schools. He really liked that. I'm just concerned here, Shelley, about the number of candidates and, again, trying to get people to differentiate one from the other. We're going to end up with, we got 2 Democrats, 3 independents, and 12 Republicans. At what point is that not a problem? I'm all for everybody having their say, don't get me wrong. But when we blatantly are flooding the field and diluting the vote in the long run, that's not helping anybody.
I agree with you, Michael. And I just want to remind people I got in this race. I didn't actually start working on it as early as when I filed, but I was on the early side. There were a bunch of people that piled on afterward. And I also want to mention that I made an attempt to combine tickets with 2 different candidates, not specifying, top or bottom, just you want to have a conversation, can we combine? And one was just a flat out no. The other one was, well, we'll think about you for lieutenant governor. And then they decided against it. Okay, so I tried. I'm not aware that other candidates tried. I think I heard Nancy Dawson tried and then she dropped out. But I go back again to we need a viable candidate that can actually win. And when we have candidates that are polling pretty well and there's question whether they can win, I remind you what happened when Sarah Palin ran against Mary Patola. She had data. There was data that said she could not beat the Democrat because of high negatives. And that is exactly what happened. We ended up with a Democrat congresswoman. Nick didn't have those high negatives, and he was able to come back one-on-one and beat her. So that's what we're looking at in November. If we have a Republican ticket with high negative, it's going to be very difficult to overcome. Now, maybe we can pull it off, but historically, it's not a good way to go into a race. And then I add with that, because the Democrats are going to pull out all the dirt. They're going to pull out all the skeletons, all the baggage. And that'll sink a Republican. So you don't want to put someone in that's going to end up happening. I think that would be foolish, especially when we have this long-term impact. And I want to say one other thing, not only long-term impact for the state, Michael, but this has impact on the U.S. Senate. Now, allow me to explain. This race, August 18th, very well, if we don't play our cards right, could mess up the balance in the U.S. Senate. And here's why. When people go to the polls in November, the federal names on the ballots are ones they've seen over the last how many ballots? Mary Patola's name, Nick Begich's name, Dan Sullivan's name, right? That is not the fresh new race. The fresh new race, the one that's going to create enthusiasm, is the governor's race. If we have on the right someone where all this garbage is coming out, the data is saying the person is going to lose, we're going to have trouble getting the right out to vote. And that could impact the U.S. Senate race, and that could put Mary Patola, heaven forbid, in the U.S. Senate. So we're talking long-term state impact. We're talking national impact. We have to put someone forward who can actually beat the Democrat. And this ticket, our ticket with retired General Geddes, we can do it. We can do it. And you also get someone, I know how to navigate the legislature. I've stood strong under pressure. I know how to fight when I need to fight, but I also have the wisdom to know when you got to sit down and you build consensus and you get something done, but you do not give away the farm. You do not walk away from your values.
Hold on. Don't go anywhere. I'm gonna put you on hold here. We got to go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Alaskan Talk Radio with a host who actually lives in Alaska. I know! Weird, right? This is The Michael Dukes Show. Starring Michael Dukes.
Okay, we're continuing here with Shelley Hughes, candidate for governor. And Shelley, you've commented several times since the beginning of the show here in the last 25 minutes or so. You've commented several times about candidates with high negatives, and that you don't have those. Is there something that we don't know? I mean, you're saying that you're worried about the Democrats pulling out high negatives about certain candidates. I know that I saw, but it seems like it's the Republicans that are pulling down something. I mean, we got Suzanne Downing this morning with a big piece about Dave Bronson and Amy Dabowski, their little tete-a-tete. And then we had this conservative Alaska thing where they're AI scraping stuff for Bernadette and trying to conflate her with Murkowski and some other things. And it seems like it's the Republicans that are doing some of the damage in here. I mean, I'm just watching the party. I'm on the outside. I'm not a Republican. I'm a libertarian, but I'm watching the party just kind of eat its own. What's going on here?
Hey, by the way, I got scored like the best you can get on a Alaska Libertarian Party. They haven't posted it. They told me they were going to post it. So General Blake Geddes and I, we definitely lean very libertarian. Well, I'm not going to throw any of my Republican opponents under the bus. We have a no mudslinging policy. In fact, we had to dismiss a volunteer for that reason. I don't operate that way. I was accused by Suzanne Downing for being involved some way with some of the mudslinging. Our campaign does not do that. And people who know me know that I would not operate that way. We're putting out a positive message of who we are and how we can help the state. We believe we have an action plan and the skill set. Like I said, I know how to navigate the legislature. Didn't matter if I was in the majority or the minority. I know how to get things across the finish line, and I've proven it. And I have a record that shows that. And I have a strong private sector, 30 plus years in the private sector, raising my family. I've got that also. So we come into this ready to serve Alaskans, provide our skill set. I could care less about the limelight. I don't care about the power. I care about helping this state and fixing decades old problems. And I want to tell you, this distinguishes us. We're the only team where I came out a long time ago and said, I'm looking for a lieutenant governor who can do more than just be down the hall. Of course, Division of Elections, #1, election integrity, #1. And I will tell you, General Blake Geddes, as soon as we brought him on board, he was devouring all the information about how to fix our election system. And in fact, one of the staffers that was down in Juneau for a few years, who really was the backbone of the conservatives as far as drafting the legislation, was the one that was training him and bringing him up to speed. So he's sharp as a tack, and he's on that. But I'm also going to bring him on board to help lead some of the other efforts in this state. There's so many things, Michael, we need to tackle, that having a second person with demonstrated executive leadership who can help on some of these fronts is really important. So you're getting a 2-for-1 with our ticket. You're not just getting one person who's going to have your back and go to bat for you, but you're going to have two. And also I'll say retired General Blake Geddes, he leans very libertarian as well. So that's where we're coming from. That's what we're offering Alaska. We break out from the pack on so many fronts. I'm the only candidate that's out there talking about we can't ignore the clean coal technology. There are 95% less emissions than we used to. We have half the nation's coal. We got to look at that. We've got to look at hydro. We can't put all just, all our eggs in one basket. Natural gas, definitely part of the answer, but we need a portfolio. So, I've come out, I'm the only one that's talking about getting private lands into Alaska hands, and that's both state lands and federal lands. So we have distinguished ourselves. And most recently, last week, we put our proposal, most of this time we've been talking about fixing those decades old problems, got to achieve cheap energy. We've got to go in and hold our schools accountable. All these things that we all know we need to do, but nobody's really talking about. They're talking vaguely, we got to think big. We got to do this. We laid out a plan, Michael, and it's based on my legislative history. So on the one, when I was a House Transportation Chair, I held 2 hearings, one on the opening of the Arctic shipping lanes, and secondly, on the need for a port in Western Alaska. It's looking specifically at a couple locations, including Nome. Fast forward, I'm in the Senate. I get the resolution passed for the presidential permit signing for the rail crossing from Canada. And then on the other side of the coast, that was on the east side. On the west side, I brokered the deal for the state dollars needed, $175 million for the Port of Nome to draw down the federal dollars. And guess what? The Port of Nome is under construction. So our proposal is to work in the next coming decades to make Alaska the intercontinental transportation and commerce hub for the Northern Hemisphere. And what I tell people is when you look at the globe, typically, you're looking at it from the side. You look at North America, Canada, US, Mexico. And I say, let's rotate the globe. We need to look at it from the top, because now that the Arctic shipping lanes are open, we need to take our rightful place to help this nation as far as security, but also for our own sake, because our public sector has dwarfed our private sector, and we need a long-term solution. And right now, the Russia is dominating those shipping lanes at the rate of 90%. So for the sake of the nation, we need to step up, and we need to build that rail coming from the lower 48 through Canada, connect to our rail system, across our border, connect to our rail system. But we got to think big, and we also have to look at shooting the rail from Nenana all the way up to Nome to that port, because now we are as close, Michael. Port of Nome is as close to Europe as Boston, Massachusetts, or New York are to Europe. We can be a route, and we are also the closest to Japan and Asia. So we're talking about fixing age-old problems, but we're thinking about the next 50 years.
Well, and this is all good stuff. And again, this all started with my one question. You are running amok today, Shelley. But let me just say this. I mean, I think it's an appreciable vision. I like the vision. I like the idea. But this all comes back to one simple question in the state of Alaska: who pays, and how do we do it? I mean, we're in a fiscal situation. We're in a fiscal crisis. I mean, we've got serious issues. We've got a government that's growing beyond our ability to pay. They want to combine permanent fund both the earnings and the corpus to be able to eventually tap into the corpus of the fund. And then they want to consume what's left of the PFD. We have a spending problem in this state, and your vision and your idea is great. The question is, like anything else out there, education, defined benefits, fill in the blank, whatever the program is, somebody's got to pay for it. And we're already in a deficit. We're already in a deficit moving forward, which is consistently being filled by the PFD. So how do we fix that?
Great question. You're a smart man, Michael, and thank you for bringing it up, because it's really important. This isn't the idea of a state-funded project at all. Over in Alberta, they're working on the private investment piece, and as governor, I will bring those conversations to the forefront. It's all about private investment for the rail, and so I want to make people clear on that. We're not looking at a boondoggle. And the project, actually, when you think about, I don't know what the latest prices they're talking about for the gas line, but originally it was going to be 44 billion. Who knows what's going to be, 65 billion, 70 billion. I don't know what the number is they're throwing out there. Just for the construction, though, in Alaska of the rail, and this would be private sector, it's comes in just for the construction. I think it's 23 or 25 billion in today's dollars. So just take that in comparison to the pipeline. That's a lot of money, but that would be private investment dollars. And the governor's job is to make these conversations happen and bring people together to make them happen. So that is what we would do. We know there's a lot of work, and and your listeners know there's tremendous work that needs to be done to get our fiscal house in order. But I will say this, out of the candidates, who is best suited to be able to navigate the legislature to do the best we can to get our fiscal house in order?
Right.
You know, I believe that I have the record. You know, a lot of people can say they're going to do great things, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, but we don't know if they're effective. You know, I don't know how many times I've gone into rooms and I say, raise your hand if you've ever been disappointed by a politician. And everybody in the room puts up their hand. And I said, including Republicans, and people keep their hands up. And I say, well, there's two reasons. One is because people say one thing to get elected and then they change to something else. You don't have to worry about that with me. I've been elected 6 times. I stick to my word. What I say when I campaign is what I do when I get in. But the second reason we sometimes get disappointed is because the person we elected is not effective. They can't get things done. And what I tell you right now, Michael, is we can't afford to tread water with an ineffective Republican governor. We can't. We will start to slip. We're already losing young people. We are in a fiscal problem down in Juneau. We have to have someone who is best suited to actually be able to work with the legislature and get things done.
Right.
And I bring that to the table.
You know, we talk about, you were talking about the financing of your proposed projects, and that would be private financing, but I'm talking specifically about the government as we have it right now, regardless of what else is being brought in or what other vision that comes in as we go forward here. And you do have a 4-part comprehensive plan on your website. Now, I was a little surprised that you didn't have, that you haven't taken more pieces out of the fiscal policy working group plan, because that was agreed on by everybody, bipartisan. I mean, it had something for everybody, and it had something that everybody loved, and it had something that everybody hated, but it was a good, solid plan. Let's talk about your 4-part comprehensive long-term fiscal plan here quickly, because I have some questions about it. So can you lay it out for me real quick?
Yes, well, it is similar, and you have to read everything. There's a lot of information, and my team had me cut a bunch of that out because it was so verbose. They were concerned people wouldn't read it, and still, even cutting half of it out, it still has more than everybody else. And so, right now we're at a place where we're in an affordability crisis. So taxing Alaskan businesses, bad step right now. We have to expand the tax base. In other words, through as we achieve cheap energy and we get the land in private hands. You know the phrase "life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness."
Right.
That was originally life, liberty, and the pursuit of property, because our founding fathers knew that land ownership is how people build wealth and prosper, and that helps with happiness, right? When you're not constantly struggling. So those concepts are really important in order to start expanding the types of industry we have and expanding our tax base. Now, some would say, well, if it's a business that's not paying production taxes and royalties, how does that help? It still helps, because it helps your local economies in your communities. And so those communities are able to meet the needs, and instead of begging the state for money. So it does help whether it's a business that pays royalty revenue to the state or not in that way. So expanding the tax base is where we have to focus on the revenue side. And on the spending side, we've talked on your show a number of times about the Sunset Audit Commission, which is better than DOGE because the efficiencies and the reductions are put in statute. And it's a process. It's very public, and it's basically will build the confidence of the public that once an agency goes through that, and it does take years because it's very in-depth. It's
right.
much more in-depth than what a finance committee can do in a 90-day or 120-day session. So, but as we get those agencies in line, that builds a public confidence that they're getting their best bang for their tax dollar buck once that process is done. So that's on the spending side. And then settling the PFD in the Constitution, we've talked about that, and I'm trying to think. Oh, the other one is the constitutional spending cap. Both of those are very, very difficult. How I would be different, Michael, in getting those kind of things through. And I'm not saying I have a magic wand and can do this, but I can tell you, because of my established relationships and the fact that legislators trust me, they know I kept my word when I was in Juneau, and that's real. It's all you've got in the Capitol is your word. Now, a lot of them might not agree with me, but they know I have an open door, and I will be in Juneau to work these things out. But the advantage that I have that's different than what we've seen is I'm going to use the bully pulpit and bring the public in on a daily basis.
Right.
I'm not going to rely on press conferences and the media spin. I'll have press conferences, but I'm going to speak directly to the people, because if I'm talking to the people about why we need a constitutional spending cap, and they understand how practical and common sense it is, that it's not going to be draconian, but that we need to fix it, we can get the public on board. That is why almost every legislator voted for SB 91, and all those legislators who voted for it voted to repeal it. Why? Because of public pressure. So using the bully pulpit to bring Alaskans in to put the pressure on legislators who are hesitating, that's how you get something like constitutional spending cap resolution through the legislature so it can go on the ballot. And I believe once it's on the ballot, we could win that.
Yeah, you have fleshed out your plan a little bit more than what you had earlier, because earlier it was basically the Sunset Commission, which again is a great idea, but to me and in my mind, the problem with it is that it doesn't operate fast enough. We've got crises that happen. We've got problems this year, and
okay.
And
I forgot to say, it also includes an inspector general, which is able to focus on the waste, fraud, and abuse right away, right out the gate. So we haven't had that concept, and it's estimated with the size of our budget that we have between $500 million and $1.5 billion in waste, fraud, and abuse. So you are able to work on that right away, Michael. And then, even how I craft my budget, I'm not going to put in the slush funds by putting in all the money for the unfilled positions. So there would be immediate things that would occur as well. So the Sunset Commission is to carry us long term.
Okay, we're going to continue here in just a second. We got one final segment dead ahead. Shelley Hughes is our guest. We'll continue the Michael Dukes Show, Common Sense, Liberty-Based, Free Thinking Radio.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we are in the break here. Shelley Hughes is our guest. I got the timer above my head. We're all good to go. Shelley, answer me this question. How do we create the connectivity between the government and the private economy? Because right now there is no connectivity. I mean, there's a little bit with the oil and gas companies because they receive about 20% of their revenue from oil and gas. So they care a little bit about what happens in the oil and gas sector. Although, I mean, based on our history with this gasline thing, not that much. They don't really care if it goes one way or the other. But I mean, for as far as the rest of the economy goes, zero craps were given about what's going on in the private economy because none of their money comes out of that sector. Their money comes out of the market, and it comes out of the oil revenues, and it comes out of whatever other fees that they have. But how do we create that connectivity between the government, the legislature, and the private economy?
Great question. And I just want to say I'm really thankful for Senator Rob Meyer's endorsement. And he was really good about explaining this. He's a smart man. As far as this whole thing of being dependent on the permanent fund, a draw from that every year, that disconnects us from what's happening in the state. It will be focused on Wall Street instead of the work that needs to happen in this state. So that's the danger of that. And so that's a big warning, and that's where we're not going to go. And I think one of the ways too is I think the Sunset Audit Commission, when you're bringing private sector people in that know how to run a lean, mean machine, I think that is important, because part of that process is actually looking at the regulations as well. What is mandatory, what is discretionary as far as spending, and are we operating as efficiently as possible? But what are those regs doing for business? I've talked to a lot of small business owners, and there's still stuff weighed down. What Dunleavy started as far as going through the regs, that's really important that we continue that process. And I think, being aware, government doesn't create wealth. It's just a drain. And you've got to have someone that has a mentality like Blake and I do, that is all about the private sector. And we have right now a small private sector compared to our public sector. And that's where this big vision comes in place. That's where it comes continuing to look at the regs and how we can streamline, how we can get the spending down. Right now, our private sector cannot afford our state government right now. And that is the reality. And so I think you got to come in with someone that has that focus, that determination, and a track record that they're going to stick with it and have the ability, the best way possible, to work with the legislature. And I'll just throw out there too, Michael, we have a plan to try to bring the legislature back across from the left back over to the right. Again, no magic wand, but I've laid out practical steps to do that as well. I am not going to sit back during legislative races. I'm going to get involved. Governor Abbott did that in Texas when his education bill failed. He got the 5 Republicans who teamed up with the Democrats. He went in, got them out in the primary. So that is going to be part of what I do. The other thing is I'm going to pull a retreat together, and it'll be all scheduled out before the election to bring the Republicans together so we can build what we can agree on and get done, give them a reason to caucus together. Very, very important. And then again, use the bully pulpit in that way. I think when we bring common sense from the public into the conversation, it's going to start moving the needle. So those are specific things that other governors haven't done. And this brain here is wired to watch what fails. When I see someone hitting a brick wall and then they step back and they hit the brick wall again, it's like, no, that's not what you need to do. You hit the brick wall. Yeah, that might happen. You step back and you have to re-strategize. And that is one of the abilities that I have. I'm not perfect by any means, but just being a wrecking ball and just tear everything down. No, you have to have a strong way to fight for what is right, and also do it in a way when you can bring people together. And that's what we're doing. I've seen some comments scrolling. I'm really surprised that other candidates have their team members coming on and attacking me. My team members are not permitted to go on and attack my other Republican opponents. I'm kind of disappointed to see some candidates' team members doing that. Just put it out there.
Okay. I didn't know Harold was part of any other team, but there you go.
It was earlier. It was earlier, and it wasn't a Harold comment I saw. So I'm just.
That was my.
Like I said, we dismissed a volunteer because of that. So if anybody knows somebody that's on my team, and I can't control supporters. I cannot control supporters. I'm talking people that are on my team that have a Alaskans4Hughes.com email. They're daily working.
Got it.
My team members aren't allowed to do that.
All right. Let's get back to it. Here we go. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Here on the Michael Dukes Show, our libertarian talk means that both the elephant and the donkey gets mad at us, pissing everyone off equally. Mission accomplished. The Michael Dukes Show.
I mean, that's my job, right? That's what I'm supposed to do. Just supposed to make everybody mad. If you can't motivate, then you irritate. That's what we're all about here. Shelley Hughes is our guest. One final segment with her here before we run out of daylight. So, Shelley, what is your focus as you start? I mean, let's hypothetical it. Shelley Hughes becomes governor. What is the starting point? What does that first 100 days look like? Where do we go from here?
Just in case we run out of time, before I answer that question, I want to tell your listeners something two things that are important. I am the only candidate that received the endorsement by the Stand for Health Freedom. It's a national organization, not happy about what happened during COVID, and they recently endorsed me. And I'm really proud of that endorsement. And I want to give a shout out to Linda Boyle for all her work on that front in Alaska. I know she's planning a conference in October, and you'll probably be hearing about that. But I'm very proud of that endorsement. The second thing that I want to mention is of the Republican candidates who are conservative, I am the only one that got an A+ rating from the NRA. And I know the NRA has not been perfect. I know there's some other gun organizations that have worked in a really great way. But to my knowledge, they're not doing the scoring. At least I didn't get a survey from them. So A+ on that. So I've said on the floor in the state capitol, the most important right of all of our rights is the Second Amendment, because without it, we could lose all the other rights. So I do rate it as the most important. And I think I just wanted people to know that. I know there's some candidates running ads about the Second Amendment right now. We haven't done it, but I've got a solid record on that. So just want to let you know, especially because you got your Friday show.
Yeah, well, like I said, I have to laugh when they bring that up, because it is Alaska, and it would be a death knell really for anybody to go up against Second Amendment stuff. But it is what it is, and like you said, the NRA doesn't have the greatest track record. I mean, they endorsed Mary Peltola at one point. So, anyway, back to my question.
First 100 days.
First 100 days. Let's get that out of the way here. First 100 days, what does it look like? What are you focused on? What should people be looking forward to if they decide to vote for you?
So day one, we're taking the Susitna-Watana Dam project off the shelf. The next step is getting the FERC license. And why that is so important is we have to have shovels in the ground by 2032. There are federal hydro dollars that are going to go to other states if we don't go for it. We'll also be looking at other smaller potential hydro projects, but that's going to be very important. The other thing, Michael, that Alaskans may not be aware, we leave port dollars on the table every year that are going to other states. And when you think of the amount of coastline, we have more coastline than the rest of the United States combined. We shouldn't be leaving port dollars on the table. And it's because we haven't established a port authority. So we will be working on that, because part of this long-term plan for the viability and for us, our state to step into our destiny, is to have ports on the West Coast. It kind of blows my mind that we're going to have icebreakers in places where there's not ice. We need to get those ports. I'm glad that Senator Sullivan is doing what he's doing down in ADAC. And I'll just throw out, I'm not a military person, will not be my decision, but having General Blake Geddes in state leadership, I think, will be important, because as I look at Nome and I look at our proximity to Russia, I mean, we're the closest of the states to Russia, China, North Korea, our foreign adversaries. I think I would sleep better at night if we had a naval presence on the West Coast. In the project that we're talking about could increase the likelihood that there would be a naval base there. So part of not leaving port dollars on the table is really important. And this also helps with our fiscal situation, these things too. I want to mention one other one that we have been ignoring. There is a pilot project underway, but tribes can pull down DOT dollars that state DOT can't. And they're not for private roads on their native corporations' land. They are for roads that you and I drive on, for public access roads. And we have not leveraged that. So that's another area we will be working on right out at the bat. And I just want to say, as we're getting up close to the wire, I stated this a few weeks ago. Every campaign is working to win naturally, right? And ours certainly has. But I believe out of all the other teams, we have a policy. We have a policy group that's been working very hard for many months, developing our positions, our plans, and of that core policy group of 5, we also have subcommittees on various subjects. So we have the most developed path going forward. And so we haven't just been focused on winning, Michael. We have been focusing on governing well. And I think you would see some of the campaigns scrambling. We're beginning to have conversations and vet cabinet members. I mean, we are going to be, people say they're going to be ready out of the gate. I'm sorry, I'm not hearing. And in fact, I've had other candidates say they're a bit jealous about how robust our statewide organization is. We are designed to carry us all the way through to November, to victory. We have regional chairs. And I just want to tell one funny thing before we close out too.
2 minutes.
So Click Bishop announced Greta Shirk as his running mate. A couple days later, we get a phone call from her older sister, Paulette Shirk, who's been involved in statewide campaigns. She's an influential woman up in Kotzebue. She has endorsed our campaign. So let that just speak for itself. She has endorsed us. She feels like we're the team that is ready. So just a little fun factoid there. We're proud of the many endorsements that we've received around the state. They're not just coming from Anchorage, they're coming from the entire state, Southeast, the urban areas, as well as the rural areas. We're ready for this, Michael. It's up to Alaskans, but I'll come right back where I started. We need to make sure we get somebody across the finish line and in the top 4 who can beat the Democrat. And you only get to pick one. So if you think that my comprehensive plan for fixing decade-old problems, the pragmatic big steps that we're going to take for this the future decades is good, if you think, watch me navigate the legislature, if you understand that my regional knowledge and lived experience is what Alaska needs, I need your vote, because I can't win, I can't beat the Democrat unless I get out of this primary. So again, thank you, Michael, for having me on your show. And I guess we're almost out of time.
Yeah, we're almost out of time. Where do folks go to find you?
They go to alaskansforhughes.com is the website, and then Alaskans for Hughes on the social media. I think, and we spell the word out for FOR, except on one of the social medias. It might be Twitter where it's the number 4, but it's alaskansforhughes.com. Alaskan for Hughes is our social media handle.
All right. Shelley Hughes, our guest for today, again, running for the GOP candidacy for the governor's slot on this coming Tuesday's elections. Of course, voting is open right now for early voting. So if you want to get out there and do it, you can. Otherwise, it's alaskansforhughes.com. Shelley Hughes, thank you for coming on. Tomorrow, Dave Bronson, Josh Church, Hour 1. Ben Carpenter, Hour 2. It's a busy week. We're closed on Friday. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay, Shelley, final bite at the apple here for anything else that we missed or anything else you want to hit on before we let you go.
Have there been any questions that somebody's asked or anything people have brought up that I can respond to? This is a constitutional republic and we represent you, and that's been kind of a signature of my service in the legislature is listening and having just so many constituent meetings. I do, as governor, would plan to have, as I can, town halls around the state, because I think hearing from the people, it's a two-way street in a constitutional republic. A little more difficult as a governor as opposed to a senator. Just it's a time factor and the number of communities, but that is my goal. So if there's something. Okay, I see you, David Boyle. K-12 education. Do you want me to answer that one?
Yeah, that's the one. So what's your position on K-12 education? More money, more options, policies. What is your take on that real quick?
Let's take the money they're getting and let's target it to things that work. I even hear from teachers that they are appalled at where the money is going, that being used on fluff programs, things that aren't helping the kids. So was a huge champion in the legislature on education, because it is fundamental to our future. and we are failing our children right now. It's we've got to get our schools on track. A school choice should not be feared. I will take on the NEA. I will use the bully pulpit to take on the NEA. I ask the question, who on earth are you to deprive a child of the best learning environment for that child? You know, and this whole fear mongering that will decimate neighborhood schools. You know, there's communities where they're going to need to have a neighborhood school. And when you open up school choice wide backpack funding where the money falls to the child, not every family takes advantage of it. A decent number
Right.
do, but it's not going to be every family. And what happens is the schools, the neighborhood schools, the districts step up their game and their schools improve. Competition works, Michael. And the
Right.
other thing is, it's often that child that's difficult to manage because it's not a good learning environment. That's often the student the parent pulls out. And guess what? The teacher is left with a more manageable classroom where he or she can focus on their students. So academic outcomes go up in the neighborhood schools for the kids that stay there, and for the kids that come out, academics outcomes also go up. So I'm a strong advocate for that. I have been for years. And we will have that common sense conversation, again, using the bully pulpit to help move the needle, not the noodle, move the needle in,
Yeah. Well,
in the legislature.
You got to drag a needle. You can't a noodle. You can't push it. You got to drag a noodle, and that's what leaders do. So there you go. One final question, quick one. If you were governor and called a special session in Wasilla and some legislators did not show up, would you have the troopers get involved? I thought that was a great question from Rick, because I thought that was everybody was asking. What would you say?
Yeah. I would say yes. And it was not good the way we handled that last time. And, you know, where the right gave in and we ended up down in Juneau, and those that had not come were acting like they won that. No, wherever it's called. And, you know, I would love to, you know, until we get our fiscal house in order and those kind of things, I think moving the session to different places in the state would be great. I think we need to have a portable setup. That was the whole excuse. We don't have the voting system, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Oh, that we can take care of that. We
can handle that for sure. All right, Shelley.
Point A to point B.
Yep. Shelley Hughes, our guest for today. Shelley, thank you so much for coming on board.
You are welcome. Thanks for the opportunity.
You bet. All right, folks, that's it for us today. We got to go. We will see you guys tomorrow. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.